The group continued walking through the snow in the cold in the forest, remaining in silence while doing so. Lee still did not say a word and continued marching through the snow, his eyes locked onto everything in front of him. No one could imagine what he was going through at the moment, but they still left him alone. Luke, who was being supported by Mike, continued to his injured leg, while taking a wrong step, caused himself great pain in his leg. He yelled out in pain as he collapsed onto his side. Arr! Lee, wait! Bonnie called out to him when she saw Luke collapse. We need to stop for a moment. Luke was able to get back up onto his feet with the help of Mike, and quickly assured Bonnie that he was okay for now. No, I'm alright. I just need a minute. I just pulled a little bit more weight on my leg than I should have. I'm sorry. Lee sighed and halted in his tracks and finally spoken after he had been silent for a while. He turned his back towards the others, while he sat himself on the boulder. Alright, everyone, rest up for a few minutes. Mike helped Luke sit down for a log to rest him on for a while. He too had an injury himself, but it wasn't as bad as the bullet going right straight through the leg. That did not need to worry about lead poisoning. Hey guys, I think I'm gonna try and talk to Lee, see if I can check up on him. Are you sure about that, Mike? Bonnie asked, even despite the fact that Mike still had a doubt the strongest member of their group. I'm sure, Mike assured, staring towards Lee for a moment, who sat there and stared towards the ground. Well, in that case, take the baby, Bonnie suggested, gently handing the baby over to Mike's arms. I know Lee isn't dangerous or any crazy, but if he were to lash on you, I don't think he'd try anything if you had the baby. Okay, Mike said skeptically, replied, accepting the baby into his arms and somewhat of a puzzled face. He never had much experience with taking care of children, but he had no problem taking care of them. After Mike had gone to try to speak with Lee, Clementine and Sarah joined Luke nearby and watched Bonnie took a couple of medical supplies out from her backpack and prepared to help Luke with his injury. Clementine, do you mind giving me a hand? Bonnie requested, while she got out a bottle of peroxide and tipped over on the cloth. Just put some pressure on this wound for a couple of minutes. Sure, Clementine replied, kneeling down beside Luke to assist him. She put both of her hands upon his wound and pushed down as much as she could, but at the same time, she tried not to hurt him. Is there anything I can do? Sarah asked, was it holding her hand against her arm? Since the events of the trailer back, she did not want to be a burden to the group any further, and wanted to make her father's sacrifice be a vain. She had promised herself to be more useful, as she'd proven by using the weapon. I think we got everything we need, thanks, Sarah, Bonnie replied, as she searched inside her backpack for some more bandages. She could not find any and decided to go back and ask Mike if he had any. Luke was still silent. Wizard Clementine keep pressuring on his leg until he finally felt a sharp pain that caused him to jump up and yelp in pain. He curled one of his hands into a fist and tried his best to cope with the pain until it went. Damn it, that hurt. Shit. How are you feeling? Clementine asked, while she repositioned her hands against his wound and pressed down against it. Does it hurt? Sarah asked, unsure of what to say at this point. Truthfully, this hurts like hell, Luke admitted, groaning in pain for a few more seconds until it stopped for a little while. He remained silent until Bonnie found the bandages, but for now, he was in deep thought. He could not believe what he was going through around 10 days. He and the rest of the group were living peace and lived to save from the cabin, but now he was the only one out of the cabin, out to be alive. It all happened so fast. How did we end up getting here like this? Clementine looked up at him towards him, all of a sudden questioned that they were confused of what they all meant. What do you mean? Well, I mean, how did we end up here? Luke repeated, looking around his surroundings for a moment, only seeing the trees covered in snow and the freezing cold air blowing through his hair. One day we're all living a simple life in the cabin. Now I'm sitting on the log in the middle of the winter, with a bullet wound around my leg. Nearly all my friends are dead, for no goddamn reason. I couldn't do anything to save them. Almost everyone's gone. Nick, Pete, Carlos, Alvin, Rebecca, they all died for what? They never did anything to anyone. And damn reason, if I couldn't do anything to save them, I feel a little guilty. Sarah lowered her head, and when she heard the mention of her father, she wanted to cry, but she had no more tears to cry out. It wasn't your fault, Luke, Clementine assured, shocked that he would have even blamed himself for the deaths of their friends. even those who were not part of the group. Pete was the first to go, then Nick, then Walter, then Alvin, then Lily, Carlos, Rebecca, and now Carly. You can't blame yourself for what happened to them. I don't know, Clem, Luke admitted, holding up his hand against his face. I wish I could have done more. I wish I was at the ski lodge. Maybe I could have helped Lily save him. I got to live with what now for the rest of my life. Before long, Bonnie had eventually returned with the blue cloth in her hand, and that might just serve as a bandage for Mike. She kneeled down towards him and packed up a bottle of peroxide again. We got bandages. This will be enough. Everything I missed while I was gone? Nothing much, Luke answered, somewhat lying, and did not want to tell her what he just told Clementine and Sarah. Just wondering when we were going to get to this town and all. And mostly just me moaning about my leg, right, Clem? Right. Yeah, Clementine agreed, knowing that he did not say anything further. Well, if someone is wrong and you don't want to tell me, then I'm fine with that, Bonnie assured, Wizard picking up the cloth with peroxide, tipped onto it, and gently pressed against Luke's leg. As she finished cleaning his wound and began to try tying the cloth around it, she turned towards Clementine for a favor. Clem, can you do me a favor and try to help Lee? He's been shot in the shoulder. I don't want to risk it getting worse. I tried to help him, but he told me he was fine. You have been with him for a long time now, and I'm sure he will let you do it. Sure, I'll try, Clementine replied, standing back up as she proceeded to try and talk to Lee. Here, Bonnie handed her the bottle of peroxide and an extra cloth for her to use on Lee's wound. It's only gonna sting, but only for a second. It'll clean the wound. I'm sure he can handle it, though. Clementine nodded in agreement and proceeded towards Lee, who remained seated where he was. She passed Mike while she walked towards him. By the looks of it, he had gave up on trying to talk to him. She kneeled down to him and tried to get to speak to him. Lee? He lifted his head to his surprise and spoke to her. Hey, Clem, he greeted, before he noticed the medical items in her hands. He already knew what she was planning, but decided to ask nevertheless. What's that you got? Let me guess, you want to put that stuff on my wound? I'm fine, Clem. It's just a fresh wound. Can I please just take care of your wound? Clementine requested. But even if he said no, she was still going to do it nevertheless. Lee sighed in response, wondering why they would let his adoptive daughter take care of him rather than one of them. You know you shouldn't have to do stuff like this. If I can shoot walkers and survival with you more than 2 years, I'm sure I can handle this, Clementine assured, feeling somewhat an impatient expression across her face. Okay, let's do it, Lee replied. Slowly moved his hands up and began to unbutton his shirt. He slowly took out his left arm out of his sleeve and now waited for Clementine to do what she needed to do. If you get nervous, don't force yourself to do it, okay? Clementine nodded in agreement as she opened the bottle of peroxide and dipped some into a rag. She then slowly moved it towards Lee. Carefully, she pressed the rag against his wound. Lee groaned in pain slightly louder than Clementine expected him when he felt the sizzling pain, but he had worse. She remembered when he injured his leg the first day they met, and it was like that until they met Herschel. Shit! Jesus! We already got one big baby, we don't need two, Clementine said in a teasing tone. Even during a walker apocalypse, she still tried to have a humorous moments when possible. Ain't that the truth, Lee chuckled, and this was the first time she had seen him laugh in a while. Was it he attended to his wound and lifted up his one arm and placed it upon his face, feeling the bruises he received from Carver. These bruises are going down at least. I should have taken the blame for the radio, Clementine admitted, wishing Lee did not take the blame for her when he got himself beaten down. If I had to take the blame, Carver may have not been vicious to me. Don't say that, Sweet Pea, Lee soothed, not wanting her to feel guilty for the actions of a madman. That bastard could have done the same to you. He didn't care if you were a kid or not. No telling what he would have done to you. Finally, after a couple of moments had passed, Clementine finished tending to Lee's wound and wrapped the cloth around his wound. She stepped back and allowed him to put his shirt back on. All done, Lee. Thanks, Clem, Lee thanked with a smile now across his face. but she could still tell by his face that he was still sad due to Carly's death. Almost perfect timing. Bonnie approached the duo. Mike, Luke, and Sarah not far behind. We're all ready to go? She asked them, but only got a slight nod in response from them. Good, let's head out, y'all. Now, with everyone blasted with bandages, they proceeded their journey and hoped to make it back into town before nightfall. And hopefully, Arvil did not have any more of his friends lurking nearby. A short while they passed a group, all rested up and were continuing their journey into town. Lee led the way. Clementine and Sarah walked a couple feet behind him. Clementine holding the baby. Luke and Mike walked together behind the girls, and they were a little slower due to Luke's injured leg, and Bonnie remained at the back. Was that the group continued walking. Clementine looked down towards the baby, raised a slight smile. She had never had the chance to hold the baby of her own, let alone even be in the same room with one. She liked having a baby in the group, and had no problem holding him. Sarah, who was now walking beside her, turned the baby towards her with a slight smile. She was super excited when Rebecca had told her she was pregnant and couldn't wait for him to be born, and now he was finally here. He looks so cute. Yeah, he's adorable, Clementine agreed, watching as the little baby who remained unnamed and slept peacefully, even despite the cold weather. You know, we haven't named him yet. She all turned around towards the others. What should we all call him? How about naming him after his father? Lee suggested, turning back towards the group for a moment and continued walking on the way. Call him Alvin Jr. Yeah, that sounds nice, Clementine agreed, lifting her head up away from the baby. We'll call him AJ for short. I like it, Sarah admitted, but she did not know what to say and didn't mind what they called the baby. Sounds good to me, Bonnie agreed, from her position, which it looked like the back of the line they were walking in. And me too, Luke also agreed. Me too. Mike was the last one to agree on the conversation they were having. Any suggestions for the baby? And that settles it then, Lee stated, as he and everyone had agreed on the baby name. His name is Alvin Jr. I'm sure his mom and dad would have liked that. As the group continued walking past through the forest, trending against the cold snow, they stumbled across a building structure. It was not the town they were heading to, but a small power station in the middle of nowhere. It had a fence around it which could be safe to keep walkers out if they decided to spend the night there. The group halted in their tracks seeing the power station and waited for Lee to say what they were going to do next. They all considered him to be the leader now, especially after seeing that he was capable and how intelligent he is. Luke groaned in pain for a moment while Mike helped him sit down on another log. He sighed in relaxation, happy to be off his feet. Thanks, Mike. No problem, Mike assured, before he proceeded to walk over towards Lee to see what his plan is. What is this place? Mike asked, unfamiliar what the power station looked like. It's a power station, Lee answered. He was not obvious to what it meant. Looks like a place to hold up for a while, if no walkers are around. Well, it's getting dark, Bonnie stated the obvious. She stood beside Lee and placed both of her hands up upon her hips. She looked back at everyone at the group and noticed how tired they all looked and they needed to sleep. We should stop here for the night. I don't think we're going to make it to the town by today. Sounds good to me, Clementine agreed, really needing a rest for a while after walking for so long, and the cold weather did not make it easier. I need to stop for a while. We all could use a quiet night for once. I'd like that, Bonnie agreed with Clementine. Yeah, me too, Luke also agreed. Lee turned towards the sky and did not take note of how late it was, and walking in the dark nowadays was extremely dangerous. Even as an active leader, he would still make him the decisions as a group. All right, we'll stay at this place for the night. Anyone object to that? No one replied. Good, we better check it though. I'll go. Anyone else wants to come with me? I'll come with you, Bonnie offered, was it picking up Luke's AK-47, just in case that there happened to be a small herd of walkers that needed to get their fight out. Everyone else stay here, Lee ordered, taking out his Glock 17 out from his back pocket. Before long, he and Bonnie made their way towards the power station, hoping it was not filled with walkers. They already saw enough trouble one day and did not intend to run into any more. Seconds after they were gone, Clementine shifted their attention back towards AJ when he began to cry. She looked upward towards the others. She knew for a fact that she's going to have to handle this on her own. That's your job, Mike declined, crossing his arms together and stood beside Luke. Sarah merely watched her, not knowing what to do with babies since they knew they had to be taken care of. She wished her dad was there due to him being a doctor. He could have helped. She missed him so much. Clementine slowly rocked the baby in the side in an attempt to calm him down, but he continued to cry. She stuck her tongue out and put a funny face out in front of AJ. To her relief, this caused him to stop crying, and he simply stared at her. Nice going, Mike praised, unsure if he'd been able to stop AJ from crying if he was in Clem's shoes. I didn't think that would work. Me neither, Clementine agreed, smiling now that the baby was nice and calm. She slowly began to rock him side to side, hoping to keep him from crying. I think he likes me. He stopped crying when I did a funny face. I think that's a good sign. You're such good with the baby, Sarah admitted, holding her hand against the center of the arm like Occasional did. Clementine just realized that Sarah was the only one who had not yet had the chance to hold the baby, possibly feeling uncomfortable or nervous if she did. Want to hold him? No thanks, Sarah nervously declined, unsure if she was ready to hold the baby. She was scared of holding him, worried that she might drop him back by accident. Maybe later? Yeah, sure, Clementine replied, knowing full well that Sarah was nervous about holding AJ. Maybe she could try again later when they're somewhere safe. Before long, Lee and Bonnie had returned from the power station in one piece and made their way over towards the group. They stopped down at the slope of the hill, and Lee was the first one to give the all clear. Okay, it's safe. Anyone can come inside now. Mike helped Luke get back onto his feet, and Clementine slowly supporting the baby as all four of them made their way towards the power station. It did look like a good place to spend the night, until they continued their journey towards town. They just prayed that no one else in the group would die after that's what's all happened. Nighttime had shortly arrived after the group made inside the power station, remaining the members and sat in between the couple of power boxes sat in the circle, right at the fire as they lit up to keep warm, especially in this weather. Luke sat back with his back up against the power box. Bonnie sat next to him on a wooden box. Mike sat with his back pressed up against his fence. Sarah sat beside Mike, and Lee sat on the opposite side of Luke, who was holding AJ in his arms. And Clementine sat near an open area of the power station. The group was in silence as they stared into the fire, but it was soon broke when Luke decided to announce something. Today's my birthday, Luke declared, immediately catching everyone's attention. He did not know what to say at this point, but he did try to make a conversation with everyone. Well, at least near I can remember. I know for a fact it's this week. Happy birthday, Luke, Clementine wished, now with a smile across her face as he announced this. Yeah, man, happy birthday, Mike joined in the celebration. Happy birthday, Luke! Sarah was the last one to wish him happy birthday, but sounded a little more enthusiastic than the rest of them. Thanks, everyone, Luke thanked. For the first time, he felt better than he did earlier today, and felt like things were normal again, where there were no walkers. How old are you? Lee inquired, him too wishing Luke a happy birthday. He seemed to be doing better than earlier, and was finally speaking with the group again, but they could still all tell that he was in sadness. I'd say around 27, Bonnie guessed, thinking back to the day she met Luke at Howe's hardware store, how she got to know him better. Is that right? Well, yeah, Luke answered, somewhat surprised that Bonnie remembered his age. I'm surprised you remember, but truthfully, I feel a lot older than I was before. I'm surprised of us still. How old are we? Oh, I'm sure some of us still remember our age, Bonnie replied, after she kept track of how old she was since Apocalypse began. I'm 26. The rest of the group turned towards each other for a moment when they raised their hands and announced their ages. Lee, Clementine, Sarah, and Mike spoke their ages in returns. I'm 39. I'm 11. I'm 15. And I'm 34. Luke made a short chuckle for a moment when he looked down towards the ground. I remember when things were normal and the dead weren't taking bites out of everyone's flesh. I finished college about 5 years ago, but it still felt like a long time ago. Oh well, on the bright side, I ain't going to pay off those student loans. Amen to that, Mike agreed. But I bet there's some asshole sitting on his ass waiting to collect. Maybe, Luke grinned. I should know what it's like. Lee then joined the conversation with a grin across his face. He too had brought back good days from when things were normal, and we did have a great job at the university. I used to work at the University of Georgia, always filling in paperwork and grading students' work. What a great job it was. I've always wanted to go to college, Bonnie admitted, but she never had the chance to due to her drug addiction in the past. Never got the chance. What did you study in college, Luke? Clementine inquired, now eager to know what he did for a living. Last time she remembered hearing information from Luke's past was from Nick, who informed the day that they had started trying their own business together, but ended up going broke. Nevertheless, they didn't care, they were having fun. Majored in art history, Luke answered. He looked away for a moment and shook his head side to side slightly, remembering how difficult it was. That's cool, I guess, Clementine admitted, her too being a fan of artwork when she was younger. She always wanted to draw pictures back in the motor inn, and always made her happy. What happened? Did you end up getting a job at McDonald's? Lee asked in a teasing tone. He tried to make a couple of jokes while they're enjoying themselves for a while. More like a coffee shop, Luke responded. That caused Lee to chuckle. He did seem a bit offended by the joke, but he took it as a compliment. But I did get a minor in agriculture. I kept my old man happy. He crossed his eyes for a moment and thought about his parents, who had lost a long time ago. Bonnie had just remembered something that was inside her backpack, something important she had stolen from Carver's base and had been saving for a while now. I almost forgot. She took out a bottle of rum and held it up. I was saving this for a special occasion, but since it's your birthday, I think now is a better time than ever. Where did you get that? Clementine inquired, surprised that she somehow still required a fresh bottle of alcohol. Bill liked to keep all of his liquor locked away at house. Before we escape, I like to take a bottle with me. Bonnie explained while she opened up the bottle and prepared to have a drink. She could currently use one after everything that occurred. She handed the bottle over to Luke and allowed him to take the first sip. Here you go, Luke. Luke accepted the bottle and raised a slight smile, not remembering the last time he got to have a decent drink. I feel a little guilty having the first sip. He was about to have a drink before Bonnie suddenly stopped him. Whoa, wait! Bonnie stopped him right in front of him drinking, reminded him of what people are supposed to do on their birthdays. To make a wish and toast. You gotta make a toast. Luke had never made a toast in his entire life and was unsure what to say. I kinda don't know what to say. Come on, birthday boy. You ain't getting a drink until you make a toast. Bonnie told him in a teasing tone. She waited patiently for him to make a toast. Come on, Luke, make a toast, Mike requested, obviously eager to have something to drink. I could do with a drink after all. You make the toast, it means we all have something to drink. Or we could just pass around the bottle and let everyone have a sip at a time, Bonnie suggested, shifting her attention back towards Luke as she waited for his answer. Come on now, let's just hear the toast. Luke knew that there was no way of getting out of this. He cleared his throat and raised the bottle of rum in the air as he began his speech. He would stand, but due to his injured leg, it was best if he remained where he was. To our family and friends and our loved ones that we've lost along the way, and to hope that we see them again someday. Lee looked back at the moment when he heard mention of family, friends, and loved ones, thinking all the back he cared for, his brother, his parents, Carly. If he ever lost Clementine, he could not imagine what he would go through. He looked up to Luke again and smiled. That speech isn't good enough for me. Hear, hear, Mike cheered, accepting his speech to be a good one. That was a nice, Luke, Bonnie praised, now allowing him to have a drink now that his speech was over. Never meant to rhyme, Luke admitted, shifting his bottle of rum in the air and taking a short sip. He had to admit, but he burned his throat a little due to the amount of time since he had last had alcohol, but he enjoyed it nevertheless. Before long, Lee decided to get up and keep watch for the night, in case if walkers were to arrive, but it looked pretty peaceful for the night. He first approached Sarah, and without asking, he gently handed AJ into her arms. Here, watch AJ, Sarah. I'm going to keep on watch for a while. Oh, wait, Sarah did not get the chance to protest while little AJ was held in her arms. She nervously looked away as AJ simply stared at her. This fence is pretty secure, Lee, Mike assured, wondering why Lee would want to keep watch when they're clearly safe. Little did Mike know that Lee actually just wanted to be alone for a while. and needed to think things over. He turned back at the others to assure them that he was fine, and even though it was the last thing to do. You can never be too safe. I won't be long. He proceeded to walk away from the group. Clementine was about to call him back, but Bonnie spoke first. Let him be, Clementine, Bonnie suggested, knowing Lee still needed some time on his own to think for a while. Thanks, Lee, Luke thanked. Merely watching over the older man walked away from the group, made his way over towards the end of the power box. He decided to have another sip of rum, with it being his birthday and all. Bonnie turned towards Sarah for a moment, noticing her look quite nervous while holding AJ. She was offered to hold him in case if AJ began crying that time, that would make her more nervous. Sarah, you want me to hold him? Sarah was about to say yes, but instead, her nervous attitude changed when the baby smiled at her, and this caused her to smile too. She no longer felt nervous about holding him. It felt like she could hold him for a while. That's okay. I got him. I can hold him if that's okay. Of course. Bonnie agreed and now relieved to see Sarah, less calm than before. She got back up to another subject, and Sarah was comfortable with holding AJ, and accepted the bottle from Luke and decided to have a sip. Been a while since I had a drink. I hope I don't get carried away with that stuff. You know they say a drunken man's talk is sober man's thoughts, Mike said. Well, he suddenly brought up the unknown. Just saying. Well, Einstein, I ain't my man, Bonnie replied, with a slight grin across her face. So whoever said that, take that shit somewhere else. Mike merely shrugged in response, but still kept the grin across his face. He accepted the bottle from Bonnie when she offered him, and did not hesitate to take a sip. He swallowed the rum and sighed in retaliation, relieved to have a decent drink for once. Hey, Clem, why don't you go try talking to Lee and see if you can get him back here over by the fire? Bonnie suggested, and this left Clementine confused for a moment, since Bonnie said they should have left them alone for now. I know I said we should have left them alone for a while, but I don't think we should be sitting in the cold like this. Try and talk to him, see if he'll come back. Clementine nodded in agreement, and she stood up, proceeded to walk over towards where Lee was keeping watch. Leaving the rest of the group to talk amongst themselves for a while, she approached Lee, who sat down, and with his back against the power box, looking over off to nowhere. Hey, Sweet Pea, Lee greeted, turning his attention over towards her. He sighed in relief when he noticed her looking at him with concerned faces. I just needed to be alone for a couple of minutes. He looked off into nowhere as Clementine sat down beside him. I miss Carly. I miss my parents. I miss my brother. I never helped out with the family business that much. I wanted to teach history rather than help out the pharmacy. I thought it was the right thing to do, what I dreamed of. I would give anything to see them all one more time. Clementine knew what he was going through, especially after he witnessed her parents as walkers with their arms and mouths cut off and rope tied around their necks. The stranger who filled her with lies and possibly would have tried to take her if she got the chance. Maybe we'll see them all again someday. I hope so, Clem, Lee agreed. Looking up towards the sky for a moment, he could imagine Carly and his family staring down on him. He turned back towards Clementine and noticed her trying to warm himself up. You should really get back to the fire. I can handle watch duty. Come with me, Clementine offered, wanting him to join the rest of his night while he lasted. When was the last time we had fun and enjoyed ourselves? We should make it last. Lee had to admit that she was right, but did not enjoy himself since the walkers had risen and took out control of the world. He remembered when they went to the St. John's farm and thought it was a good place to live freely, but when they remembered what they turned out to be. Sure, was freezing my ass off out here. Anyways, let's go. Clementine smiled as she waited for Lee to stand up and walked beside him back towards the group. She knew that Lee was strong and would try his best to lead the group to safety, even if it meant costing him his own life. She could not be more grateful to have someone like Lee take care of her.